I know I say this a lot, but this might be a shorter video. And to be clear, by shorter, I mean maybe around the 40-minute range, which is short for 2 back or not to back. Ultimately, we'll see, but I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. This is 2 back or not to back. This is the series where we go over every single most of the Kickstarters, not every single Kickstarter. Ultimately, when a Kickstarter has like 43 backers, I don't spend that much time on them. It's just a question of whose attention, you know, do you want to see it? Do I want to see it? Who wants to see it? Some people want to see it, that's for sure, but it's always a decision. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. Let's go ahead and dive into this. This is a weird tangent, starting off the bat with Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is a segment where we're going to go and look at a whole bunch of Kickstarters. We're going to have updates, we're going to have cancellations, we're going to have new campaigns, we're going to have a bunch of things, we're going to have picks of the week, we're going to have upcoming campaigns, a whole bunch of Kickstarter-related things, and so let's talk about some of the things that are not Kickstarter related, because ultimately before you go spend $175 on that new fresh shiny Kickstarter, sometimes there are things that are not on Kickstarter that are available for a decent price. And currently we have Mystic Vale Essential Edition from AEG with a seal of excellence on the box over at Miniature Market for $77. This is the Essential Edition, which means this is the base game of Mystic Vale along with 3 expansions. This is the kind of thing where AEG could have thrown it on Kickstarter for $99, and you know that some of you would have backed it. So $76 practically seems like a deal by comparison. And while we're here, this probably doesn't apply to this one over here, but Miniature Market apparently has 20% off on clearance and sale items as well. As usual, not sponsored, just Cult of the Now. And from there, let's go ahead and start off with Board Game Adjacent. Board Game Adjacent, starting with the Archie modular and expandable game table by Geek & Son. We're talking about this one because next week it'll be gone. There's no major updates around over here. This is just basically their game table that I talked about it a few weeks ago. This is their Kickstarter for the Geek & Son, for the Archie game table, which is a modular game table with a bunch of accessories, bunch of stuff. It's worth talking about it here just because of the fact that if you check out their updates, they've been giving a whole bunch of stretch goals to people who, if you're backing the table, if you're someone who's interested in the table, there's a whole bunch of extras and freebies you get in this Kickstarter that otherwise would cost X, Y, and Z and all of that. I won't heavily go into it because I talked about it in the past. This is just a minor update around the Archie Geek & Son table. Worth taking a look at the updates if this is something that you're in any way interested in. From there we move to the not funding category, not funding and cancellations, starting off with Slash and Spells. $6,500, 94 backers, 25 days to go. Slash and Spells is a game of basically taking highly asymmetric characters and then a variety of game modes, either team-based or head-to-head or free-for-all, or whatever it is. You're going to be going through, you're going to be setting up this map over here and then trying to build out your character, gathering these various upgrades on the board to upgrade your character, to augment them, to choose which upgrade path you want to take, as well as playing cards down, being mindful of playing cards and creating your own queue along the way. It's got a whole bunch of, stuff, asymmetric characters, powers and abilities, things like that, acrylic standees, all those types of things, some Kickstarter exclusive content. Not heavily going into this one, just because, again, 94 backers right now, and I'm unsure if we're looking at a cancellation or not. 6,500 backers based on where it is in the campaign. It could go either way. It depends on whether they try to ride it through the finish line or cancel and relaunch. I don't really know what their plans are there, but Slash and Spells over on Kickstarter if you want to check that out. Links to everything down below. From there, we have a minor update around a cancellation. Fire for Light was unfortunately cancelled. This one, again, we did see this one coming just because of the nature of where the funding goal was at relative to what they wanted to fund at. They announced the cancellation. They're going to take a look. They're going to reevaluate the campaign, the pricing, trying to show all the content, because one of the things I talked about is some of it is always a conversation around how to present the content, and I think that people didn't see that value out the gate. They're going to be taking a look. They're going to be coming back to Kickstarter in some way, shape, or form. Keep your eyes peeled. That will happen sometime or something. You can subscribe to the channel and find out more there and things like that. Moving on from there to Tamashii Chronicles of Ascend. Tamashii Chronicle of Ascend from Awakened Realms Light. This is one where, let's talk about this one. 632,000 euro raised. This is one that is really, you have to kind of ask Awakened Realms Light, and this is, by the way, the update category. We're going to have like 7 minor updates, not a huge deal, no major changes, but let's talk about it. But we have a Tamashii Chronicles of Ascend. They're doing a lot of stuff in this campaign. This is one of those games that makes you really question what does Awakened Realms Light mean compared to Awakened Realms, because this right here is your Awakened Realms Light. This is your programming, story-driven action selection game from Awakened Realms Light, including a giant big box as well. So this is their light, their light game, which is not meant to be necessarily light games, but this is clearly bridging a very, very fine line here. But we have a ton of miniatures, a ton of upgrades, the big box, you have Chapter 5 coming soon, Chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4, there's a ton of options. They've just introduced the all-in pledge, which is €149 for the all-in pledge, in case you're interested in that. Pledged 1,010 times. How many backers do we have? We currently have We currently have, where are we? 6,925 backers, and 1,000 of them have currently converted to the all-in pledge. To be fair, they just released that. I would expect to see that number climb to around I'm going to go with 2,700 backers. 2,700 backers, no, that seems light. Awaken Realms light. Let's say 2,900 backers at the all-in pledge before this campaign is done. I'm curious. I'm just curious of what percentage of people move to that all-in. But the one part that I will say is, to give them credit to the Awaken Realms light part, an all-in pledge from Awaken Realms generally is not 149 euros, so that's actually a pretty accessible package as far as what you're getting there compared to what an all-in would be for Awaken Realms not light. But that's Tamashii, just talking about the all-in over there, as well as the stuff they've been unlocking, the daily unlocks. No major surprises or changes. An all-in box and an all-in pledge. That's what you got over there. Ares Expedition, we have even fewer updates. In fact, we have no updates. I'm just talking about it because 5 days left to go, and I like the game, and so generally the games that I like do show up over here in these updates. We have a whole bunch of promos that have slowly been unlocked over here. None of these are essential. None of these are necessary. You can wait and get the game at retail and not worry about the all-in boxes. All the reasons in the world that you can sit there and wait, or you can get it on Kickstarter. It really depends on what you value, what you prioritize, what you're trying to hunt down. But I do like the game. I think Crisis is an excellent expansion pack for the game, and so that's where we are. Nothing else. No major big deals or updates there. Tidal Blades. Tidal Blades 2 Rise in the Enfolders. Same story here. Another game I like. Another game that I am talking briefly about where we are so far. This one, again, no major changes. They have daily reveals, daily updates. They added a 5th scenario that you can work on together with people. So we have the Cayman's Revenge. We have the whatever this is called, the Panic at Lamara. We have the Shifting Sands along with this miniature over here. If you get the miniature pack that includes that, or the standee. Both look great. Over here we have the 4th scenario, which is still not revealed. We have a few days left of the campaign. And then a 5th exclusive backer-created scenario that they're working on over on Board Game Geek. You can check that out or read more in Update 9. And then we have the daily reveals over here, just showing you what's been unlocked, the dice, the upgraded dice, the Dune Creepers, more items, more maps, more stuff, more things, all the various things over here. Difficulty cards over here. Oh, they added an update where they have a modular difficulty system, a dynamic difficulty system, which will scale based on how well you're doing, which is something that I'm very much looking forward to, because as I mentioned in my review, I really like the game, but also felt it was a bit too much on the easy side, which is, prototype. That's one of those caveats over there. And they are looking into that for those who have experienced either direction. They're not just saying, hey, it's too easy. They're saying, well, what if it's too hard? It depends on who you are, depends on how you're playing. So because we have fail forward in the game, we're also going to introduce modular dynamic difficulty to the game experience, so that if you're doing too well, you'll face a little bit more pushback. If you're doing too poorly, you'll face a little, more of an easygoing aspect to it, which I'm very happy to see that. We have hagworms, we have power cards, more things going on over there, and again, all that stuff. This is just me reminding you this one ends shortly as far as this campaign goes. Moving on to Jurassic World, The Legacy of Isla Nublar. This is one if you go ahead and look at the updates over here, they have been slowly adding more and more exclusive content. The 2 updates since my last video last week were, first of all, we have 4 amber dinosaurs. So instead of giving you 1 amber dinosaur, they upgraded the 4 starting dinosaur. That's the Brontosaurus? No, Brachiosaurus. The Brachiosaurus, the Triceratops, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the Raptors, all upgraded to amber miniatures for the starting dinosaurs, as well as if you look at the one I think I care about more, because honestly, amber dinosaurs are cool and they're different, but A, it's a legacy game, and B, I don't know if I particularly prefer amber dinosaurs. I like kind of having that, that red and green aspect, because that's what the, it tells you what the dinosaurs are. It tells you whether they're herbivores or carnivores at a glance. But over here as well, we have the upgraded tokens. So they gave a bunch of upgraded deluxe tokens, so they're upgrading the quality of these tokens, so you'll get all that. Again, legacy game, so all these things have that aspect, although it still comes down and still heavily depends on whether this game actually ends up being a game I want to replay down the road or not. So I'm curious what else is coming. They said they made it pretty clear. What did they say? They said something over here that made it pretty clear that there's still stuff coming. What did they say? I don't remember where it was. They had something, but they also had a bunch of playthroughs. If you want to see a playthrough of Scenario 2, you can check out Becca Scott over on her channel. So over there, you can check out a Scenario 2 playthrough, obviously with spoilers, so take that into account, but that'll be over there. And then over here, we have as well the Board Game Geek channel played the game as well, so you can check that out. I do have a copy of the game, by the way, and I will have a review probably before the game ends. Probably before the campaign ends. Hopefully before the campaign ends. So make sure to subscribe to the channel to see that when that pops up, in case you want to know my opinion of the game. My opinion on the price is still pretty strict, but my opinion of the game is a totally separate conversation, and obviously as well, make sure to stay tuned next week, because there may still be time to briefly, maybe not, it might be too late, the campaign might be over. Anyways, moving on to Okko Chronicles Cycle of Earth. No major updates here either, but rather Okko Chronicles Cycle of Earth, the one thing I will say is that they did add because I talked about last week how the games are not compatible, they did in one of the recent updates add an expansion pack where you could make the games compatible using components from one game to another, so that is something new in case you're interested in Okko Chronicles Cycle of Earth. If you want to know more about the game, or, well, I didn't talk that much about the game, but if you want to know more about my talking about the game, you can check that out on last week's 2 Back or Not to Back, or check out more content creators for full overviews of the game itself. Moving on to Habitats. Habitats 9 Lives and Basketboss. Again, no real updates here. This is just a strong week of a lot of campaigns that I was interested in enough that I'm giving you brief overviews that, hey, these things are ending shortly, and yeah, you can check those out. Reminder, you can always subscribe to Room and Board in case you want to get a more consistent list of all the campaigns ending, as opposed to just the ones that I happen to care more about and or happen to have relevant updates. Those are important too. And speaking of relevant updates, this is more of a correction from last week, but Mercurial, one thing as I was going through the pledge levels over here, I was commenting on the prices, and I just was instinctively reading from them, and forgot to note that the pledge notes, the prices over here, the $72 is very different. It's actually $54. So factor that in, that my opinion last week, the overall opinion does not change as far as the price point will hold its value or will not, but a lot of the time as I was going through it, I kept on saying the wrong price point in dollars, so that is something that's worth noting in case I said something that scared you off. Make sure to take a look and understand the actual price points and pledge levels for Mercurial, because if you want the game, I do not want to scare you off from that based on incorrectly telling you the price. And that is the update there, which means it's a good time to finally, and I mean, we're doing pretty well on time. We're like, what, 10 minutes in so far? And we're all done with all the updates. We're done with all the cancellations. We're done with not funding. In fact, I could even afford a small but very short coffee break. I say very short because there's not a lot of coffee left. So give me a second here. Cool. Okay, we're back to the video. So we have a few campaigns this week. We only have a few. We have like 6 campaigns. And in fact, next week looks fairly light-ish. Maybe we'll see. It's even possible. It's hypothetically possible that next week there will not be a 2 Back or Not to Back. I think there still will be, but it's possible. It depends on how light any given week is. Sometimes I'll just bundle the next 2 weeks together and then find an opportunity to do something else instead. But we have like 6 campaigns. Let's go ahead and go through them. These 6 new campaigns. Timestamps down below in case you want any particular section. Starting off with Rove, the Expansion Collection. 2,000 backers, $66,000 raised. Rove, the Expansion Collection is, well, the expansion collection to Rove. Coming to you from Jason Tagmeyer from Buttonshy Games. This is giving you a whole bunch of content for your Rove game in case you didn't or did get your Rove game. I guess if you didn't get your Rove game, they also offer a pledge level where you can get the Rove game. That will be the $26 over here for everything Rove. The Rove base game, the Fascinating Flora, and the following mini expansions all bundled together. Okay, and if you want $28, then you'll get an extra wallet to boot. I do generally recommend the extra wallets. I find that I love Buttonshy Games, but their wallets are designed for like 18 to 26 cards, and once you start throwing more than that in a wallet, it starts getting a little tight at the seams, and I do like having extra wallets for the expansion collections, although I should probably just start getting a box for my Buttonshy Games because I have enough of them, and I don't really travel with them that often. What I should do, this is a kind of a side tangent, but I should get a box or proper collection for all my Buttonshies on the shelf, and then just have like 2 or 3 wallets where I can take the stuff out and put them into my wallets for travel, because once in a while when I travel, I do love taking Buttonshies with me, but I actually don't travel that much, and most of the time I'm just taking them off the shelf, so that's another conversation that I'll have to figure out another day. In fact, if you have an excellent Buttonshy storage solution that's something along those lines, I'd love to know about it, because I'm realizing my Buttonshy collection is getting harder and harder to safely maintain on the shelf. In any case, Rove is an excellent game. It is one of those games that has really, I need to dive into it more. I played it a whole bunch, but I really enjoy the solo nature of Rove as you try to gather as you try to basically establish these various puzzles. I'm trying to see, here we go. So you have these modules over here, and you're trying to make those modules match the current card you're on. And then you're constantly trying to get to that next mission, trying to complete these cards one at a time, these various objectives, constantly reconfiguring the modules you have. Now you're doing that by using movement from the cards you have, but you're also getting extra bonus points depending on if you can make these other configurations as you go through it. You're also going to use various abilities from the modules themselves, although those are limited of how often you can use them, so you want to factor that into your decision point. And the net result is a solo puzzle of how to rearrange your board on a constant, regular basis to achieve the specific goal that you have at any given time. It is possibly I would say it's right behind Sprawlopolis for me as far as in terms of the solo experiences that Button Shy provides that I enjoy the most. I like a lot of Button Shy games. My favorite ones are actually two-player experiences, Skull and Circle the Wagons, but as far as the solo games go, this is right behind Sprawlopolis, arguably right before it, but that's only because I've played Rove like 12 times and I've played Sprawlopolis like 60 times, so I definitely have overplayed one of those two games, so technically it's ahead of it, but that's only because of that. But anyways, Rove is a great game. I really like it. I'm very excited for the expansion content for the game, as far as what they add, as far as how they mix things up, the extra cars they'll give, the extra scenarios, all those different things. So very intrigued for all new things Rove, because I like it. I do. I'm actually kind of curious why. No, Sprawlopolis has a bunch. Sprawlopolis has a bunch of small modules. I don't think of the Sprawlopolis modules as being as impactful as some of their other games. Anyways, either way, that's what we have over here. So you have the full Button Shy collection for Rove if you want that. You can get more Button Shy content, or you can pay $12 or $14, I believe it is, for the expansion collection and or extra wallet. That's the $12 or $14 aspect. So you can check that out. They also covered an update if you want any of their current games. You can go ahead and head over to the store. So if you want, this is worth noting, if you want any of their current games, you can head on to the store and you can buy some things for a discount. Where is it? I have this over here. Here we go. Discount code 0322US to get 15% off your order. And if you reach $25, you also get free shipping. So if you want any of their stuff, you can get both a discount code as well as free shipping on any prior games. Like I said already, I highly recommend Skull, Circle the Wagons, and Sprawlopolis. Other games as well, but those are definitely the ones that stand out the most to me from Button Shy. And that's basically Rove. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value, all of that. Usually backing a Button Shy game, two things are usually going to be true. One is you will not get your money back if you decide it's not for you. Just the practical price point and shipping costs of these games makes it so that they don't hold their value well on the secondhand market unless you happen to find things in between print runs, which does happen, but it's more the minority. The second aspect is it's usually the best place to get your hands on the games anyway, just again because price point and shipping and all of that. You can either get it out of their store later or you can get it on Kickstarter. The difference in price is so minimal that sometimes you're saving $2, sometimes you're losing $2. It also depends on whether you get that discount code or extra things like that can factor into the price point and decisions. Generally, I'll tell you what I do. I just back Button Shy games when I'm interested in them, and I skip them when I'm not, but for me, if I'm interested in the game, I go ahead and get it on Kickstarter. The difference in price is usually so minimal that I get the game early, I don't have to worry about it, I don't have to think about it, I don't have to worry about being between print runs, or any of those things like that. And that's Rove from Button Shy Games. Moving on to Darkest Doom. $369,000 raised, 2,700 backers. Darkest Doom, they're doing tremendously well so far. Darkest Doom is bringing you a game that, on the one hand, looks very area control in what it's doing, but is really more of a RPG-ish adventure. You're going to go across 9 rounds, and that can end early depending on what happens along the way, whether other people have achieved their goals. But wandering around the board, upgrading, getting various actions. Some of these things in the game, by the way, are absolutely insane, and I do highly recommend Meeple University if you want a full overview. It's like 35 minutes, but there's a lot going on in this game if you want the full level of detail. Or alternatively, if you want a high level overview, honestly, you can just watch this 4-minute long video. Skip the first 2 minutes. It's really just like, thematics. Don't skip it if you want the thematic stuff, but if you just want more on the getting a sense of gameplay, just watch the second half of the 4-minute long video. That'll cover a lot of gameplay situations. That'll give you a feel for what you're doing as you explore around the board, as you gather various actions, as you gather these various goals, doing all this stuff over there in this RPG-ish, slightish, a miniature heavy area control adjacent adventure. That's what's going on in Darkest Doom over here. And if you go through the stretch goals, the updates, by the way, the updates have a lot of things going on there as far as the content they have. You're getting action cards that give you full miniatures, full extra things to the game. It looks very ambitious in what it's doing. I'm very curious how it plays. But yeah, we'll have to take a look at that at some point. As far as pledge levels, you're looking at €99, $110 for the Darkest Doom base pledge, €149, $165 for the Guardian Edition pledge over there. And then the early bird is unfortunately already gone. They gave a 48-hour early bird, which I'm always a fan of. I like when companies do more than the 24-hour minimum, but that said, it's still unfortunately gone. That's the nature of, early birds. They're only there for a short time. But as far as the game itself, ton of content for the game, especially if you're getting all the extras over there. There's also the semi-co-op expansion, which is a scary word to throw in anything, but that's going to be the Herald of Aeon, 5 players, and semi-cooperative expansion into the game. But past that, you're going to be, that's basically the game. We have daily goals coming over here, we have the Beheading Blades. Again, this is a single card in the game that gives you this, base for your miniature that goes onto it. Same idea over here with the Contamination cage over here, the evolution of the Dark Contamination, this cage you're going to throw things over. We have more miniatures, more stuff over here, just tons of unlocks for the game as you continue scrolling through this, and the game looks gorgeous. I'm very intrigued. Again, again, my biggest question, which is generally the most important question, is the game going to be good or not, or is it just incredibly attractive looking and trying to pull you in that way? I just did a video recently on why I don't back games with bad art, and then the reverse is something like this, which looks absolutely amazing, or I rarely back games with bad art, but this one looks absolutely amazing, and I have that opposite aspect of, am I just being pulled in by what the game is offering me over here? Ultimately, it's hard to know. It's hard to know. Time will tell. We'll find out on that one, but that's Darkest Doom. 9 days to go. As far as should you back it, will it hold its value, all of that. This is one of those tough ones. The answer is an instinctive yes. An instinctive yes, because the amount going on here, if this game is a game that is pretty decent, if this game does turn out to be a great game, then you're looking at an incredibly highly produced game with tons of miniatures, tons of content, and one that I don't see really dropping that much in price when it hits retail, if it hits retail, and in what form does it hit retail. Just the nature of what they're asking for. This is not your typical retail game. I mean, just look at the amount of content you're getting, look at the amount of miniature stuff, look at the fact that extra cards are producing extra miniatures. This feels like a Kickstarter game with a Kickstarter price point, and one that will be expensive down the road. The biggest risk is, like I said already, is the game going to be good or not? Will it hold its value at first? Likely. When it first shows up in the first month or two, before anyone has a real strong opinion on the game, generally the answer is yes. Over time, what will happen? Hard to really say for sure. It depends on how good the game is. It depends on how much hype there is around the game. It depends if they're coming back to Kickstarter with another Kickstarter. So it's a very hesitant but instinctive yes as far as this one over here. Next up, we have Age of Rome, 893 backers, $71,000, 12 days to go. Age of Rome, coming from Teetotum Games for their first game. This is a worker placement game as you build out these various regions, as you swap the regions with your various players around the table, as you're mindful of the various goals and the different pathways forwards from the area control, from the votes in the Senate, from the building up your thingamajiggy that I'm blanking on the name. As you do all these things, as you put schemes in other players' ways, whole bunch of things going on in this game as you manage those different tracks and try to do so more efficiently than the other players across 9 rounds of play, which coincidentally and completely unrelated is the same amount of rounds you have in Darkest Doom. There's nothing to do with each other. I just thought it was interesting that 2 games back to back had 9 rounds of play. That's not that interesting, honestly. I kind of regret bringing it up now. But either way, that's going to be Age of Rome from Teetotum Studios. We have €69, $77 for the Senator pledge over here, and we have €99, $110 for the Emperor all-in pledge, giving you the Age of Rome Kickstarter exclusive edition, all unlock stretch goals. And let's go ahead and scroll down and see what you get for the game in terms of those pledge levels. If we continue scrolling down, we have the spinning board, we have what's in the box. This is showing you all the stuff in the basic game to begin with, just starting off. And then as we scroll down, and more stuff, they're doing a great job showing you all the stuff and making me scroll slowly through it. And then we have Caster's Attack, the solo and co-op gameplay. It's one of those things that was in the unlocks as you go through the daily unlocks. And then the rule book, and then pledges. The Senator pledge over here. Here we have the Senator pledge, and here we have the Emperor pledge, which gives you all the campaign add-ons. This is basically going to be an extra €30 for the following. So that extra €30 is getting you a few things. It's getting you the metal coins, which are €28 on their own, which means if you want the metal coins, you may as well jump up to the next pledge, because the next stuff is going to cost you basically €2. For the deluxe tray and the premium sleeves, you're paying an extra €2, assuming you want the metal coins. And so in general, I would say if you want the sleeves, don't bother. But if you want the deluxe tray or the metal coins, you're already very much closer to the point where you may as well consider getting all of them. In general, the deluxe tray, I can't speak for the quality because I don't know. It's not like, I don't know what it's going to be like, but if it does anything like it looks like what it's doing, then it'll make the game more accessible, easier to set up, easier to table, and I'm always a fan of those things. And that's what we have going on over here in Age of Rome. As far as should you back it, should you not, same conversation to a degree. This is a game where you're not going to get it in this form in retail if it shows up at all. So it really depends on what shows up after the campaign, how it shows up. But this is one where it is expensive. It's not cheap. $110 for a worker placement game across 9 rounds. $77 for the base over here. It's expensive. And this is a trend that we are seeing more and more in Kickstarter games. We are seeing it in Euro games and deluxe, over-the-top, overproduced Euro games showing up in Kickstarter, asking you for 2 or 3 times the value, the price, not the value, 2 or 3 times the price point for a game that will show up in a retail potentially in some more stripped down form. Now this one on the hand with 893 backers from a first time creator, it's not a guarantee this will show up in retail. So I would say there's really 2 aspects of it. If you really care, if you're certain you want it, go ahead and get it now. If you're willing to wait till retail and you're willing to wait for a stripped down version and willing to take a gamble on whether it does or doesn't, then yeah, wait till it shows up in retail and it may or may not show up in a cheaper version for a cheaper price point but less of the deluxe goodies. As far as will it hold its value, it's hard to say. The price point is high. high. The price point is fairly high. I'm skeptical that you'll see your full value back on this one. I mentally am comparing this one far more to a Game Brewer game, where a Game Brewer campaign tends to have that overproduced tons of stuff, all that, and then when it comes time to hold its value, it's kind of a medium. You know, you'll be able to get something back for it. I mean, people like the game, people want the game, it's a solid game, I played it, but at the end of the day, will people pay $77 or not $110 for it after the fact? It's always hard to say. This goes back to the cult of the now. When you see $76 for Mystic Vale Essential Edition, are you like, yes, absolutely? Or are you hesitant because this is retail and not Kickstarter, and suddenly you get to a slightly more rational mode? That tends to happen with the aftermarket as well. Some things hold their value, some things just people want to get their hands on, and it is what it is. Others, people back it at Kickstarter for $110, and then when it shows up in retail, they're like, I can get a different game instead. So I think this is going to be more the Game Brewer slant of things, where it will do a decent job holding some of its value, but likely not all of its value on the secondhand market. But still very much a guess. Moving on to Nightmare Cathedral. €100. 100,000 euro, no, 100,000 euro, there we are, 100,000 euro, 100 euro seems like too little, 100,000 euro raise, 30,000 euro goal, 1,100 backers over on GameFound. This is Nightmare Cathedral, a game that I was totally not excited about until I played it. Now, I was not excited about it because I just didn't care for this art over here. Famous artists loved, so the amount of people on my video commenting that they backed the game or they followed the campaign specifically and exclusively for the art, there's a lot. It's not a small amount of people. There are a lot of people who are very interested in this game, and that's not the question at the table, on the table, at the table, on the table. But the Nightmare Cathedral, on the other hand, despite the art not being compelling for myself, when I actually sat down and played the game, it was such a ridiculously good game. Ridiculously is probably a little over the top. I'm comparing my expectation of the game to where it actually ended up. But suffice it to say, I was really compelled by Nightmare Cathedral. I really enjoyed the game. I found it gave me an excellent experience, an excellent two-player area control experience. More than 2 players. I played it at more than 2 players as well. I just say 2 players because I have a ton of games. I played at 2 and 3 so far. I have a ton of area control games that play well at 3. I have very few area control games that play well at 2, and arguably I preferred this one at 2 players. It's a little too early to tell, but arguably I think I preferred this at 2 players. I thought it was a great, well done game, well executed, fast upgrades, fast tableau building, fast moving experience as you go through 2 phases of the game to both get the Nightmare Cathedral built and have the nightmares enter the board, and then have complete chaos and destruction as you control those nightmares, as you be mindful of the different aspects of the game, from the area control, from the action selection system, from the moving up the track down here as you sacrifice your own characters for that, your own followers, as you're mindful of devouring followers to get those endgame points. And there's a lot of things going on in the game, but my favorite part easily is just the actions you take and upgrading those actions. It just provides such a nice, pleasant, quick flow of play that was really enjoyable. This is one of those games where you can do like 5 things every single turn, but you always want to do this one so that that one will be better, and you want to recruit so that you can, go ahead and get more followers on the board, but you want to build your towers first because then that will let you recruit stronger. But then if you move around and start attacking, you'll be in more regions. Everything in the game lets you go on to the next thing to do more and more, and so you feel constantly rewarded as you play it, although granted sometimes people just smash you in the face and sometimes it's not as much fun, but it's on the fun side. But that's Nightmare Cathedral as far as what the game's doing. You can check out tons of content. There's playthroughs, there's reviews, there's a ton of content for the game if you want to go ahead and look more into this one. Again, the art's not for me, which means if the art is for you, then you already have a step closer to the thematic immersion of the game than I did, which means I think there's even a higher chance you'll like it. Not a guarantee, but a higher chance you'll like it. As far as the pledge levels over here, we have the Nightmare Pledge for €90, and then we have, that's it. That's all we have over here. We have the Nightmare Pledge for €90 for the game. That's all you have. There's no major unlock, stretch goals, optional buys, all those things. There's just you get the Nightmare Pledge over here. There is a single optional buy. If you missed it, if you didn't get the early bird, if you didn't sign up or follow the campaign early, then the Nightmare Cat is an extra buy for €11, which, I mean, honestly, as far as getting the game, we'll talk about it in a second, but you're going to have a bunch of nightmares in the game anyways, unless you're somebody who feels the need to track down everything, and if you are, I get where you're coming from, I feel the same way, but paying €11 for a single nightmare more, compared with the base price of €90 for the full game and 8 nightmares, what I would say is that's only worth it if you are going to be playing this game a lot. The base game is going to come with 8 nightmares, and you're going to be using only 2 nightmares every single time you play, and the cross match you have between those nightmares is already going to be plenty. I would say if you're going to be playing this game once every 3 months, you will not need this extra €11 nightmare, adorable / horrifying as it may be. But if you're someone who does want to get it all, it's a good game. It's a good game. So I would say I hope you followed this campaign before it went live, because then you don't have to be stuck in that dilemma at all. Regular reminder to subscribe to the channel, because I told you about this campaign in my upcoming Kickstarters for March video. I realize now I've told you 3 times during this video to subscribe to the channel, which is more than I usually do. Usually I average like 0.4 times per video. Like I'll do it every like 2.5 videos. I'll be like, subscribe to the channel. And this time I've done it like 3, now 4 times. So apologies for that. I'm sorry. Moving on. That is Nightmare Cathedral. But before we move on, should you back it, should you not? Will it hold its value? All of that stuff. The short version is this is GameFound exclusive. That's what they're saying over here. They're saying this game is only going to be on GameFound, which means the only way you're going to see this at retailers is from retailers who back the project. Which means 2 things. First of all, it means that MSRP is fake. It's not fake. It really exists, but it's not something that's going to matter past the fact that retailers can use that as a reference point with what they should or shouldn't charge, but it has no practical impact to the greater scheme of things because this is GameFound only. But it also means that this is one that I'm pretty sure will hold its value. Once you factor in the fact that it is a really solid game, combined with art from an artist. I mean, this had 11,000 people following the campaign. There's clearly a demand for this art. There's clearly a demand for all that. I think this is one that will do a fine job holding its value because it's going to be a hard game to get your hands on, combined with being a good game. And granted, my opinion is limited. It's just my own opinion, but it's still an extra baseline for me. When I'm trying to judge whether a game will be good or not, a starting baseline generally is if I've played it, it does help to know that at least one person thought it was good. So that is helpful. But anyways, it will be one that I'm pretty sure will hold its value. Certainly not a guarantee because it could fall into that, little obscure spot where there's just not enough people who actually want to go ahead and hunt it down. But I think it's a really solid game, and you combine that with the exclusivity, I think it'll hold its value. I was sad to see it be exclusive, frankly. I was sad to see it be exclusive because it's a game that I would want to see this get into more hands and be on more people's tables, but it is what it is. And that's going to be Nightmare Cathedral. Moving on to Feralis, Obscure Land. Feralis Obscure Land, 760 backers, $75,000 raised. This is doing significantly better than I thought it would. This is a 2-player head-to-head card game. Those things on Kickstarter do not do well generally. There are certainly exceptions. Radlands is going to be the most notable of all the exceptions, but generally it's just harder to sell with something saying, hey, we got cards, it's 2-player head-to-head, and we're different and we're special and we stand out. And kudos to Dear Game Studios, because they've clearly managed to at least build up enough of a following that they're doing much better than the average game in this genre does. So good for them. As far as what's the game, Feralis is going to be a game in which you're gonna have to be trying to eliminate each other's life totals. You're gonna have opponents. You're gonna have a life total of 20. You're gonna be trying to take your opponent down to 0. If you're like, well, this is basically Magic the Gathering, don't worry. There are still more similarities to come, but very, very, very different games. You're going to have these 2-sided cards that you're going to be basically incubating. You're going to be placing these cards down and then trying to choose which side to build up these cards as they slowly but surely tick down the die and eventually enter the battlefield. So you have a bit of a timer mechanism. You have a bit of a choice mechanism as far as how you build out your cards, and there is deck construction in the game as well. You can play with the pre-constructed decks, which they do recommend for the first few games. Alternatively, you can build out the decks using the deck construction rules, X number of commons, X number of uncommons, X number of rares, all of those things as you build out your decks and attack each other and go head to head in Feralis Obscure Lands. They have some how to play information on the game. They have some GIFs showing you, I don't know if it's GIFs, but they have some, meaning it's GIFs, not GIFs. I know that. Don't you even dare think of correcting me. The creator of the GIF said it's a GIF, and I have this fight every single time I say the word GIF, so maybe I should just cave and call it a GIF. Never. Subscribe to the channel, by the way. And anyways, moving on. So that's going to be what's going on with Feralis Obscure card Feralis Obscure card game. Feralis Obscure Lands. We have a few pledge levels over here. We have €43, $48 for the core pledge. We have €79, $88 for the gameplay all in, and then €129, $143 for the deluxe bundle all in. That is a lot of potential money to spend for everything. And then we have the retailer pledge as well. So the potential lots of money going on over here for this game in terms of how deep you want to dive into this one. It's got some solid art. It's managed to stand out in a way that is, again, I'm happy for them that they managed to break that mold to a certain degree. Although that does bring us to, should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? First of all, as far as exclusives, there's going to be over here, this exclusive card over here, the Kashi over here. There's not a lot of exclusive going on in the game. We got the game mats, we have the card over here. The game, I would say most exclusive are going to come down to a bit of extra stuff as opposed to actual gameplay content past that single card. But if you really want Karst the Devious over there, then that's going to be a Kickstarter exclusive item. As far as will it hold its value, will it not? I'm skeptical, but factor in that I'm also skeptical that this would have been doing as well as it has off the bat. So I was already wrong when it comes to this game. So the question is, how wrong will it be when it shows up later? Again, at the end of the day, these games do tend to be a little harder to stand out in a crowd. You have a game which is a 2-player head-to-head card game. You have 20 life points. You have a whole bunch of cards. It's hard for people not to just hear Magic the Gathering and then write it off as another card game that they're not necessarily interested in. It's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle that, again, Feralis has already done better than I thought it has, but you combine the high price point for the stuff, combined with how these games generally do in the secondhand market, and I am skeptical this will do that well in the secondhand market. So if you want the game, go ahead and back it, but if it turns out to be a game that's not for you, I do not think you'll be getting your money back on this one. Not a guarantee. I'm mentioning 14 times already how I was already wrong about how well they're doing, because I'm always mindful of being wrong. We should do a video on like the top 10 times I was wrong about Kickstarter values. That'd be a fun one. But yeah, it does happen. But either way, I am skeptical this one will hold its value. Moving on, and lastly, we have Dead by Daylight, the board game, coming to you from Level 99 Studios. This is the implementation of the video game Dead by Daylight, 3 to 5 players, as one player is the killer and the other players are fighting for the lives of survivors. 6,000 backers, $555,000 raised, 18 days to go. There's already a ton of content. I don't know if there's a ton of content. There's already content in this game. Crackle has both a preview as well as a gameplay in case you want to check that out. So if you want to see how the game plays, this is going to be, we're going to have 2 main pledge levels over here. This is going to be $49 or for the standard edition of the game, and then $99 for the collector's edition of the game, which gives you a ton more content. Before I even go further, and I will go further, do not bother getting the standard edition of the game, please. Like, if you want that, just get it at retail when it shows up at Level 99 Games. There's no reason to get that on the Kickstarter. You'll be paying more for the game, plus shipping, plus all of that. Skip that entirely and get that at retail. But if you are interested in the game, go ahead and get that $99 collector's edition, and we'll come back more to the pricing and the pledge levels shortly. Let's talk about the game. In this game, you're going to be playing either as the killer or as the people who are survivors, the people who don't want to be killed. That's what you're going to be doing in this game as you wander around the board, trying to either basically take them all out, or trying to set the generators up so you can ultimately escape. You're going to be moving around from the various zones. You're going to have the asymmetric killers with their own abilities. You're going to be doing all that, trying to survive. This is an adaptation of the video game in case you played that, although it's going to be somewhat carrying over the video game while also being very, very different. And also, I do want to scroll down to a testimonial that I did not understand or appreciate that it was funny until I actually understood how to play the game a bit more, which is somewhere down here. Nope, not there, not there. There was a testimonial that was amusing somewhere along the way. Did I skip it? Maybe I skipped it. It was really, really funny. It was funny. I'm just don't take my word for it, but it was. Where is it? Where's the testimonial? Where is the testimonial that I thought was amusing? Okay, there was a testimonial somewhere on the page that said, "You'll be hooked." And I just thought it meant that the game was addicting. I didn't realize that it meant literally, "You'll be hooked." So that was funny. I thought it was amusing. I thought it was doubly funny because I didn't get it the first time. I spent too much time on this joke. It's okay. It's not the first or the last time I'll do that. It's just what's going to happen here. As far as what you get for these pledge levels, it is worth scrolling down to what you get for the pledge levels because you get a ton more content in the collector's edition. In the standard edition of the game, I'm sorry for all the scrolling back and forth over here, you're going to get 7 survivor miniatures, you're going to get 6 killer miniatures, you're going to get player boards, and a whole bunch of tokens for a lot of the stuff instead of actually having the various deluxeified content you have over here. Over here we have 17 survivor miniatures in the collector's edition. You have 16 killer miniatures and 1 victor mini over here, and then you have a bunch of these hooks and the generator minis, a whole bunch more stuff for the game. So you're getting upgrades to the content, you're getting a ton more survivors and killers, so there's a lot more going on in the collector's edition, which is worth getting to justify the price point over there. And this one is going to be Kickstarter exclusive. This is not going to be available in general retail or all of that, but let's see, the Ultimate Dead by Daylight experience is not available in retail. Standard MSRP is $129. As we said already, MSRPs and things that aren't actually available are kind of fictional, just meant to be a bit of a point of reference, so to speak, but that's basically it. But that's everything going on with Dead by Daylight. Again, check out Crackle's gameplay for a good idea of how it actually plays if you want to dive into that. And past that, should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? So, first of all, like you said already, completely skip the standard edition. It's just not worth getting it here. Get it at retail if you're interested in that at all. As far as the collector's edition, I think it'll hold its value just fine. There's a strong demand for this game, that is clear. And not only is there demand for this game, but the demand is specifically and exclusively for that collector's edition over there. Combine that with a game that all it has to be is half decent in order for it to hold its value in the secondhand market because there's an IP backing it up. In general, the standard for an IP game to hold its value is always less than a non-IP game because the IP is already carrying the load to a certain degree. It's not a perfect guarantee. At the end of the day, you'll have games that just don't do that well, but even Dark Souls from Steamforged Games, which got fairly lambasted as far as how well it was balanced or all of that, it still does a decent job holding its value if you have the collectors, exclusives, all that stuff. General IP games do a better job at holding the value. Again, not perfect, but a better. Combine that with the fact that the collector's edition is giving you a fairly decent deal compared to the retail, giving you a lot more content and a lot more upgrades and won't be available after the fact. Not a guarantee for future Kickstarters and stuff like that, but won't be available in general retail. And I think that Dead by Daylight is likely the one that is most likely to hold its value as far as, well, you know, doing just fine over there. And that's basically everything, which means it's time to move into picks of the week. Also, I'm getting close to the 40 minutes. I'm possibly getting a bit over it, so we'll see, but definitely close. So I was not the craziest wrong. But as far as picks of the week, I generally do 2 picks of the week, one for my most interested and one for the one that most likely to hold its value. And we only have 6 campaigns to pick from, but I'm still going to make those picks because I only go from the new stuff. I don't go from updates. As far as the one that's most likely to hold its value, I'm going to go with the Dead by Daylight, specifically that collector's edition. I think that that is the most likely to have a significant chunk of holding its value just based on the demand for the game. All it has to be is half decent. Combine that, and I think it'll be fine. So that is the one that's going to be my pick of the week for the most likely to hold its value. As far as my personal interest pick of the week, we're going to go with Nightmare Cathedral. This is one, again, the thing I think that makes the most of a reference point as far as how interested I am in this game is when I saw it was going to be a GameFound exclusive project, a GameFound limited project. I was sad. I was genuinely sad that this is not a game that's going to make its way into shops or have wider availability, past, of course, retailers that back the game on the GameFound project. So yeah, it's one that I think is a solid game, very different in what it's doing, very different in its theme. Even though the theme is not for me, I liked it despite that. I enjoyed it despite that. I really, really found it compelling, simple, engaging, and worth the playtime. Nightmare Cathedral. It's a solid game from Board and Dice Games. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the project coming up next week, or some of the projects, just some, which is we have Maglev Metro, Mechs, Monorails, and more launching on April 5th. We have Mall Peak, an asymmetric 2-player game, also launching on May 5th? April 5th. April 5th, that's the one. And then I think Aldara is possibly launching April 5th. I have to double check this one. This one, we didn't talk about Mall Peak. Maglev Metro is more maps for Maglev Metro. Mall Peaks is an asymmetric 2-player game, which is going to be the spiritual successor to Skull Hollow, also combinable with Skull Hollow if you want to do that. And then lastly, we have Aldara Reborn, or Aldara, not Reborn, just Aldara, coming from Arcane Miniatures. This is one that canceled, that launched and then canceled. It looks like coming April 4th, actually. It looks like it launched and then canceled because the price point was fairly high. It actually funded. It did fairly well. They just wanted to bring it back down and make it more accessible to all the people as opposed to just the people who are currently happy with the game. And so they canceled it, and I'm curious to see in what form or shape or all of that stuff that it comes back to Kickstarter. So we'll see all of that April 4th with a 72-hour early bird all-in offer, 68 free premium metal coins. Remember to subscribe to the channel for things like that that are very helpful, and I did it again. That one was on purpose. In any case, I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate y'all. I don't say y'all, but I said y'all. And have a good one. I was interviewing elsewhere, and they said they were looking for somebody who's responsible. And I was like, I'm your guy. My last job, I only lasted 2 months, but every time something went wrong, they said I was responsible.